It was a clear-cut endorsement from the Treasury Secretary, Dr. Henry, of the government's version of what advice it took in announcing that guarantee of bank deposits.
Look, I know there has been considerable public interest in this matter following a rather unfortunate and fallacious story that appeared on the front page of yesterday's Australian newspaper. And so whilst I would not normally entertain questions such as this one, and in my 24 years of appearances before these committees never have, I think on this occasion there probably is a public interest in my confirming that in respect of the advice that was tendered to the government and that supported the decision that it took on Sunday the 12th of October, Mr Stevens and I were of one mind.
In Parliament before question time, the government called on Opposition Leader Malcolm Turnbull to stand up and apologise to Dr Henry after Mr Turnbull raised the prospect that the Treasury Secretary could be sacked if it was revealed he'd misinterpreted the RBA's advice.
Earlier today, the House of Representatives, by an absolute majority, carried a resolution requiring the Leader of the Opposition to immediately apologise and retract his reckless and irresponsible attack in question time yesterday on the Secretary of the Treasury. At the time, the Leader of the Opposition wasn't present in the chamber. He is present in the chamber now, and perhaps he can take the opportunity to respond to the House's resolution, and at the same time he can distance himself from Senator Abetts's outrageous comments in the Senate earlier today.
And joining us now on PM Agenda, the Minister for Small Business, Craig Emerson. Craig, thanks for your time.
My pleasure.
Before we get on to areas within your portfolio, of course, the government's meeting with small business representatives this Friday. Yep. I'd like to ask you about the developments in Parliament today. Wasn't that a bit of a stunt from Anthony Albanese there to call on Malcolm Turnbull to apologise? Isn't it up to an opposition, and isn't the opposition doing its job to be questioning the performance of the regulators and the government?
The opposition leader and Senator Abetts in the Senate both have questioned the integrity and the honesty of the Secretary of the Treasury. This is an enormous action to take, and even after the Treasury Secretary made the remarks that you've just played on the program, the Senator Abetts, said that doesn't seem to have the ring of truth about it. So he was questioning whether the Secretary of the Treasury, to Senate estimates, basically under an obligation to tell the truth, was in fact doing so. And similarly, Malcolm Turnbull has questioned the honesty and integrity of the Secretary of the Treasury. This is almost unprecedented, and it does warrant an apology. And what Anthony Albanese was doing on behalf of the government was asking Malcolm Turnbull to do the right thing and apologise for slurring the name of the Secretary of the Treasury.
But you know that Senate estimates committees are robust. Parliament is robust. I mean, your senators in years gone by, when you were on the opposition benches, were always grilling public service officials. Are you saying that this overstepped the mark?
I'm saying
from what the likes of John Faulkner and Robert Ray have done in the past?
Of course there's a role for scrutiny through the estimates processes. There was, as you say, when we were in opposition we did that, and Senators Faulkner and Ray were very good at it. But I don't recall them saying effectively that the Secretary of the Treasury is not telling the truth at a Senate estimates hearing. That's a very serious allegation, and Malcolm Turnbull had the opportunity to apologise. He wasn't there when the first motion was put in the Parliament today, carried by an absolute majority, an overwhelming vote. OK, he wasn't there to vote on that, but he was sure there at question time, and he was given the same opportunity at the beginning of question time, and he declined to take that opportunity. He could have done so, and by declining to take the opportunity to apologise, he lets sit on the record the questioning of the honesty and integrity of one of the most important office holders in the land, the Secretary of the Treasury.
Well, there's no doubt about the fact that Dr Henry's testimony to that Parliamentary committee was an endorsement of the government's argument of recent days. Let's recap a little bit of what the Prime Minister said in Parliament now for our viewers. Let's hear it.
The government, in taking that decision, did so based on the advice provided to us by the Secretary of the Treasury, an office which we defend, and a person whom we defend. And he did so having consulted with the Reserve Bank and the other economic regulators. The government stands by the decision. It has helped to restore and maintain confidence in our banking and financial system. It was the necessary early and decisive action which was necessary, and I would have thought the alternative government of Australia at a time of global financial crisis would have supported it as well.
In terms of what Ken Henry had said earlier in the day about the unlimited bank guarantee, he said that the RBA and the RBA governor and himself were of one mind. Why not then release the correspondence between him and the RBA governor? If they were of one mind, why not release the letter as the opposition called on?
Well, that again questions the integrity of the Secretary of the Treasury. If he says that they were of one mind, if he says that they supported the government's comprehensive guarantee of bank deposits, well, how about we take the Treasury Secretary as his word? Why is this ongoing questioning by the opposition of his integrity and of his honesty? The reason is that they're sour on the Secretary of the Treasury because he has told the truth in the Senate estimates processes, and he did give that advice to the government as indicated by Kevin Rudd, the Prime Minister.
Another thing he said was that the idea of raising the guarantee for bank deposits from $20,000 to a larger amount or an unlimited amount, that was instigated by a proposal from Malcolm Turnbull to do that, to increase any guarantee from a deposit of $20,000 to $100,000. Now, if Ken Henry's saying that, doesn't that show that Malcolm Turnbull is leading the way on parts of this?
Well, Malcolm Turnbull is sticking with his policy that bank deposits will only be guaranteed to the value of $100,000.
At least $100,000.
He said $100,000, and Senator Brandis, in a radio interview with me this morning, absolutely confirmed that is coalition policy. There is no doubt about it. Now, let's see what the effect of that would be. It would be to deny the guarantees to 40% of bank deposits and 750,000 accounts. Now, that would pull the rug out of the financial stability that we've helped engender here. And Julie Bishop, just now in the Parliament, has actually claimed bizarrely that our policies to provide these bank guarantees have had a greater adverse impact on Australia's financial stability than anything from overseas. So she's now assuming away the whole global financial crisis and saying it's the government's fault. These people are quite loopy.
Well, Malcolm Turnbull makes the point that if you, as the Treasurer is now saying, are going to charge a compulsory fee for providing a guarantee for deposits over $1 million, that is essentially a deposits tax. Let's recap a bit of what Mr Turnbull, the opposition leader, had to say during Parliament.
Does the Prime Minister agree with the Macquarie Dictionary that a tax is a compulsory monetary contribution demanded by government for its support? Does he also agree, therefore, that a compulsory fee levied on bank deposits over $1 million in return for a government guarantee is not a commercial arrangement and is, in truth, nothing more than a new tax?
I'm always gladdened when the Leader of the Opposition, the alternative Prime Minister of the country, resorts to his high school debating tactics. And there's nothing like pulling out the old dictionary and saying, do you know that the meaning of X in the 17th century OED is Y? And the shorter Oxford says the following, and the Macquarie says this, and the Collins says that. This is actually about serious questions of national economic leadership.
But Craig Emerson, if it's a fee and it is compulsory, it is a tax, isn't it?
We are saying that all deposits in banks will be guaranteed. It's a comprehensive guarantee, but deposits of a particular amount, and Wayne Swan has said $1 million or more would be subject to this insurance premium. Now, that is sound policy.
But it's compulsory,
it is a tax. Well, it is sound policy, and I will point to the comments that were made by the head of the National Australia Bank on the weekend in relation to our comprehensive system of providing financial stability. They have said in their press release on Sunday that they have passed on a full 1 percentage point reduction in rates of lending to small businesses and another 0.2 percentage points. Why? Because of the measures that the Rudd government has taken to stabilise the system. Now, that is a glowing endorsement, and it's good news for small business. It's good news for mortgage holders, and the coalition is now saying, no, we would change that to guarantee only deposits to the value of $100,000. That would devastate small business finance in this country.
Okay, just quickly and finally, we're almost out of time, but Friday you're meeting with members of the small business community in Brisbane.
Yes.
What are the concerns you're hearing?
Well, we're hearing apprehension about the availability of finance from banks, and what the banks have been saying to me is that the credit is still flowing, particularly if there are existing overdrafts, lines of credit and so on. Now, what I'd like to do, amongst many other things, is have the banks explain that directly to small business representatives and individual small businesses.
And that's a chance on Friday?
On Friday,
okay.
And it's about us keeping our finger on the pulse. You've got to keep ahead of the curve, I think is the phrase that has become very popular here. Is exactly what small business is experiencing, how they're feeling. But one thing I would say is that confidence is really important, and I think that there are reasons to be optimistic about the future, but realistic about it too. And I'm saying that we're navigating our way through that with some of the best regulatory systems anywhere in the world. That's been independently verified, and that's what we'll be saying. But most importantly, we'll be listening to the views of small business.
Craig Emerson, appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me on, Kieren.